Welcome to Masters of Max, a mobile app experience podcast. Please welcome your host, Tom Butta, Chief Strategy and Marketing Officer at Airship.
Welcome to the latest episode of Masters of Max. Today, I really am honored to have our guest, Jonathan Kay.
Tom, thanks for having me.
What's interesting about your experience, Jonathan, is it actually provides a different perspective than many of the guests that we have. A lot of the guests that we have are, I would call them practitioners or more like leaders. You know, they work on the brand side. Tell us a little bit more about Apptopia.
Apptopia is a leader in the third-party intelligence space. And so we provide brands competitive intelligence. We provide early leading indicating signals to hedge funds that are trading on public companies. But we're providing estimates. We're providing performance estimates and user-level segmentation on every mobile app.
So you got started in this pretty early. Well, pretty early in your career, actually, but also pretty early in the mobile space.
Yeah, when we started the company, we were essentially doing a different business model. We were essentially a marketplace to broker mobile app acquisitions. And, you know, as the story has kind of unfolded, we learned that the best way to kind of work through all the noise and the muck was through insights and data.
Yeah, but still, you know, it was relatively early. I mean, you started the business in what, 2011?
Yeah, I think there was like sub 100,000 apps at the point that we started the business, which is a milestone in and of itself, you know.
What's transpired since you made that pivot into data?
Essentially, you have a lot of competition. Right. And you have a lot of people trying to do the same thing. They're trying to grab your attention at the exact right moment in time. And how the market has evolved is you can't really just pay out of these problems. Like the person with the most money isn't always the person who wins.
Yeah, I think money can win for a short period of time. Right. So what would you say some of the key ways brands are using your data?
We help brands benchmark their own performance. Like it's very easy to get lost in first-party data, but without a benchmark of what's happening around you, it's hard to know whether you're actually doing well or not. Because during COVID, you know, growing digital sales 200% could be the industry worst. And so you need context. And then the really smart brands, what they do, Tom, is they're focusing on those whys, right? And they're trying to look at like what impacted that performance, right? And they're trying to learn from other people's mistakes and just take better initial swings, right?
Do you see any kind of a timeline in terms of you providing data and insights and then them seeing results?
I think data takes time to have an impact. We talk to some brands that say, hey, we talk to our customers. We know what and where we need to build. And like, you probably get a B. You talk to your customers. Someone didn't, and they're going to get a C. But the person who got an A talked to their customers and also saw what people did with their actions and their money and their time versus just what they said. And it's a combination of these things that starts to make you better over the long haul. I mean, like, I know you guys do a lot of work in the QSR space. If you look at McDonald's and Starbucks, like, they're leaps and bounds above their competitors because they've taken a different approach to the DNA of the company. Even the people that they staff on their team are more analytical. And so I do think there is a way to fast follow here. It's a cultural shift, making data a part of your decision-making process.
So are you seeing any broad trends over time? Are there more and more apps? Or app downloads growing? Is app usage growing?
I would say app usage is growing for a lot of reasons that are like more than just the obvious ones, which is like we bought a new TV recently, and I actually used my phone to set up all of the streaming services. The trend I see is that there are less apps and more usage. And the more usage is driven by the phone and the apps being more integrated into your life. And so it becomes easier to do things with your phone than without your phone, which is why usage is increasing.
It's actually a service model, right? Apps help simplify life and or help life get a little bit better. If that means saving time, right, then that is a good way to have life, become better. The other, I think, trend that we clearly see is privacy, data privacy, right?
You and I are like unusually educated on consumer privacy given our professions. The average person is not. And so all this stuff scares them. And I think you're going to see it get even more personalized because at the end of the day, it's just better for you. Like, it's like you walk into a department store. I don't want to walk through the women's and kids sections to get to the section. Like, if I could skip that, I would, right? And like digitally, they're allowing that to happen. And I think once people just get more comfortable with it through like repetitive, redundant education, they'll realize that more often than not, it provides you with a better experience.
We just came out with the Mobile Consumer 2023 survey of about 11,000 people. And it's extraordinary how much people are willing to share about themselves. But where it gets interesting is when you discover an app, you download an app, and then you're being onboarded, you're filling out your preferences, and then, you're asked, are you willing to share your location data? And it's like, why?
Yeah, and what you said that resonates a lot with me is that timing matters. Like, ask me for the location when I'm in Home Depot, right? Not when I download the Home Depot app. Yeah, timing is everything, man. It's actually a way to educate people. You're educating people through an experience, right?
Let's talk about the elephant in the room, which is the economy. So how have you seen the economy impact the kind of app landscape?
I would say like over the last 3 to 6 months, the trend we've been seeing in travel and entertainment is that while it kind of broadly recovered in 21 and 22, we've actually started to see a lot of travel and entertainment go down, like down to neutral. And the biggest areas that we're seeing grow right now are like kind of like low cost, like lower cost airlines. And typically we find that cruise lines are lower cost travel as well. And we're seeing those are the only segments that are growing really over the last 3 to 6 months in terms of travel when you look year over year.
And what about in retail? What are you seeing in retail?
Yeah, so what's interesting in retail is, like, broadly speaking, you have like e-commerce is up almost like 120% year over year. E-commerce is pretty broad, and so we kind of broke into e-commerce. And the two biggest players are essentially Amazon Shopping and Temu is kind of this like low cost provider based in Asia that is kind of giving everyone a run for their money. It's interesting, right? It's changing the path. Like, I'm willing to incur more friction, i.e. a new company, a new buying experience, in order to buy the same things, but at lower cost. I think there's something else interesting that's also happening, which is, I think if you asked me 3 years ago or 4 years ago, I would have told you Amazon was the least expensive place for me to buy most of my items. And I actually do not believe that is the case at all anymore. It is the most convenient place to buy all of my items.
The notion of a marketplace, and frankly, to branded items, it's both an opportunity as well as a threat. Right, it's an opportunity for distribution, but it's a threat in that your customer base is completely and 100% controlled by the marketplace. And that, I mean, I'm pretty sure that a lot of brands, like a Nike, built their own direct-to-consumer playbook because of that potential threat.
What resonated with me with what you said about Nike is that it's direct-to-consumer, but it's also like brand loyalty. Like, there are certain things where I think the quality matters, and certain brands, like Apple is a brand that's a perfect example of that, where like the quality matters. You'll see the really big brands like step up to the plate a little bit and like showcase the difference in the quality of their products and start to find a little bit of balance here, because I think it is shifting too aggressively to like find the lowest cost. And I'm hoping there's some middle ground between where we were and where we are now.
Jonathan, it's always a pleasure to chat with you. I look forward to continuing to work with you.
Well, thanks for having me, Tom.